First week I had
So go down 2 floors from where it is. Right.
when the boy grew up. I didn't like it. That place I had. I had boy twins, girl twins. The boy girl twins and the brother they were brothers, and the girl twins. And then I had I'm just gonna lose my and the twins and the girls yeah, there's video there by the fire. They were there. Like, hi.
I could ask you a question. Did you get a plant?
Did Lydia tell you I tried to ask really difficult ones? Smiley face.
so they saw one of those and Jeff was sleeping. Yeah, Jeff and Lydia were sleeping. That was such a bummer. That was her one thing she wanted. That's the only thing she wanted. Not only like goal or like was that we see them as they sang one, but there was something.
And then Lydia brought back the stuff. Thinking like this would be something Annika. It's nice. I already have one. I already have a moose and I'll see their girlfriend.
Go find that for you.
Yeah, I kept trying to think of like maybe she's mixing this up with like a deer or something. I don't know. Oh no, she has the you can give me some up and shrimp bowls. Yeah. I got it.
Yeah.
So oops, she does already have a moose. She has to.
But Alaska moose is so much.
Well, I think one's the mom and one's
The sister.
one's the sister. Oh. I think I would
Yeah, look, there's the best. How could they not show
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'll go and open prayer real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. Be all home safe and have this evening to share stories and just retell some of the things that we were able to encounter up in Alaska. And we just ask that you bless this evening, the reminiscing that we'll be doing, and overall just thankfulness for being home. We just call us your name. Amen.
So again, we just want to say thank you so much for coming tonight, and most importantly, we want to say thank you for your support to the Roots group. I mean, these trips would not happen without the full church support. And you know, I've said this before, people say to me, oh, that's so nice of you to do that. But I can say again and again and again that we are so blessed to be able to do this and to be able to go on these trips with these guys. These are awesome, incredible kids. And to come back, yeah. We're always glad to come back. That too. So the kids are going to tell you about some different aspects of the trip, and then we will, of course, have questions after that. So up first, we have Caleb, and he is going to talk about work groups.
Hello?
Stand up.
Okay, so,
Stand up.
so obviously every day we had work to do. We'd go out to our work sites, and the way we were assigned to these work sites were in the morning, Jim, the leader of the camp, would go over to our leaders. He'd talk to them first. He'd tell them who was needed where and how many. And then from them, they'd assign us to a work site, so we'd know how many of us were going where and who was going where and what groups we were in. And still during breakfast, after breakfast, we'd make our lunches. After breakfast, we'd go out to outside of the breakfast area, and then we'd sing a few songs before we went to work, and then we were off. We drove to our work sites in our separate groups, and once we were there, we'd meet the homeowner, we'd walk around the property, we'd look at all the nature stuff, and we'd talk to the homeowner, see what they wanted done, and then we'd work. Most of it was log splitting or wood cutting or moving or anything like that, because in Alaska the winters are really long and harsh, so they need a lot of wood just to get through the winter. So a lot of it was log splitting or wood cutting or something like that. But we'd also did painting or brush burning, a lot of different things.
Thank you. Evie's going to talk to us about some of our fun events.
So Sunday and Monday we did our hikes, and Sunday was one where we went to a lake and there was snow, so some people had snowball fights. Some people went in the water, and some went up higher on the mountain. And then Monday we went to another hike, and that one was the Butte, and it was a much steeper hike than it was for the first one. Then on Wednesday, our main fun event, we went on a jet boat, and we had a nature walk and saw replica trapper houses and firs, and a bald eagle landed next to us, and it had a 7 to 8 foot wingspan. And then on the way home, we saw a moose. And then since we had to stay extra, we went to Iditarod Museum, and some people rode the sled with the dogs. And then we went to another hike, and it was Reflections Lake. And then we went to Thunderbird Falls and hiked there, and then we also swam at a different spot.
All right, next we're going to have Jared. He's going to talk about group bonding, group dynamics.
Okay, group bonding. We had plenty of it. Maybe a little too much towards the end, but we sure had it. So I think naturally we're more of a quiet group, but it was cool to see everyone open up more towards the end. It was cool to talk with other people because we don't get a whole bunch of time together over the week, so it was cool to see us kind of bond. After the work sites, we would have basically free time to ourselves to do whatever we wanted if we weren't doing a hike or anything. So we played a lot of games. So like lots of Uno. We played Uno, Uno Wild, Uno No Mercy. It was just lots of Uno, but it was fun to be with the group and just talk and have fun with the competitiveness. And then also, like Evie was talking about, the hikes we went on. My personal favorite was the Butte. It was just fun with the group to go up this really steep mountain. Some people enjoyed it, some people not so much, but that's all right. But yeah, it was good.
All right, thank you. I would like to mention that none of the adults did the Butte because we said we've been there, done that, we're not doing it again. All right, next we have Aiden, and he is going to talk about how did we see God working while we were there.
Okay, so I'm going to be straightforward. I might reference a few bullet points on my phone because so much happened. But I want to start with saying that when you think of like God working, a lot of people go like the really big things, but I'm going to focus more on like the ordinary things throughout the week that I really saw God working through. And the first one was just being able to withdraw from the world. Because, here there's so many burdens, so many worries, so many things that burden you, but you're able to just withdraw and focus on Christ. And that was a great blessing from Christ. And we did that through our devotions in the morning, where we'd focus on more things that we consider elementary, but things we really forget about, like respect, integrity, encouragement, things like that. And then when in the evenings, we would go around the campfire and worship and talk about those things. And it was very beneficial. We were able to just withdraw and focus on Christ and more in depth. Another thing that I saw God working through was like friendships and relationships, like Jared was saying. We don't get a lot of time throughout the week, but just being able to have a full week and a half to get to know each other better and grow in the Lord together was very great. Even through the challenges, that was a big thing, being stuck, having to encourage one another. We're going to get out of here eventually. We did. So God was faithful there. What else is there? I think that's about all. Oh, Evie's right. Nature, just being able to immerse yourself in God's beauty and His creation, it really just makes you fathom the majesty of God. If He can make these mountains, if He can do these great things, He can certainly fulfill His promises to us.
So another thing that we wanted to say thank you for was the cards, and I know that it was Jane that organized that, and I think the Connections ladies wrote all those cards. And I think it's safe to say that everyone really appreciated being able to have those and open them up every day. That was really, really, really nice, especially with our bonus days. We had enough cards for the bonus days. So yeah, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the bonus days and how everything happened with flights. And, obviously we made it home. We made it home at different times. Eagle Crest was just incredible in hosting us for the extra days. They were just, whatever we can do to help you, we will. They took us when we needed to go to the airport. They fed us. They really were absolutely amazing. So Randy's group was the first group to finally get out. So he's going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, toward the end of the week, one thing that we maybe forget to mention is while we're up there in Alaska at Sutton, there's very little communication, very little news watching. We don't have the TV on. I bet for some of you at home, if the TV's on and it's the news, you get the same cycle of news, and it's almost continuous. Up there in Sutton, we were removed from all of that. Oh yeah, data too. I don't think the kids were on their phones doing the things that they're doing here on their phones. It was nice to be away from that. But at the same time, we were having dinner at a restaurant earlier in the week, and we learned that there was an assassination attempt on the past President Trump, and that was huge. Something like that, the news would be in front of us. We'd see it all the time. We saw it on the TV for maybe 20 minutes while we were at the restaurant, and then we left the restaurant, and no one talked about it again, other than maybe at church on Sunday. It was mentioned again, But just to be removed from that. And then the second thing that occurred, which was big news while we're up there, was this Microsoft glitch. And it didn't mean a lot to us when we heard about it. We didn't realize how much it was going to affect us until the evening when we were supposed to be leaving camp. And we had plans to leave camp at, it was like, the first time. But we were leaving camp and we said, wait a minute. I think our flight's canceled. 1:30 in the morning, we realized that our flight was canceled. And so we, instead of driving out of camp, we turned around and we fell back asleep in our cabins and we had to come up with plan B. I don't know where I was when the decision-making process happened, but Patty and John came up to me and they said, here's our new plan. You're leaving first with 4 kids. John. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'll test this leaving Alaska where we've got a place to stay, get on a flight, and take 4 kids with me. So one of them was my own. That was good. The other 3, I'm like, man, I hope we make it. So first leg of the flight went fine. Arrive in Seattle, and what do you do when you get off your flight? You go to your next gate, find your next gate. Well, what we didn't see around us was somewhat chaos, and people were just, realized right away that our second leg of the flight was canceled. And now I'm in Seattle with kids, and how do I get home from there? So I asked a gate agent, what do we do? We're stuck here. We're missing our connecting flight. She said, oh, believe me, it's not just you. It's a lot of people, which didn't make me feel any better. And so she said, go stand in that line over there. And the line kind of wrapped around, and there was 150 plus people in this line. And so we ran to the back of the line, and we soon became the middle of the line because there was 300 people behind us in line after us. And so I told the kids that were with us, I said, just find a place to camp out where I can see you, but I got to stand here in this line that's not moving and wait to talk to somebody to find out what we can do. It was quite a long story. I won't take you through the next hour and a half, but nothing happened for an hour and a half. Other than I got some really nice text messages from home. Several people found out that we were stranded in Seattle, and I heard from several of you said, you're not alone. We're going to get you guys home. If we need a place to stay, if you need something, let us know. We'll put this on our credit card. We'll get this done. We'll make that happen. So thank you. And that was just so nice to not be the only, well, I was, but the only person there with kids and trying to figure this out. I had support. And I immediately called these 2 and said, what can you do to help me? Because you're at camp yet. That'd be a nice place to be at this time because they had beds to sleep in and food to eat, and I did not. So I sent the kids to Chipotle or down the concourse. Yeah, I said, go find some food, but please come back right away because things might change as I stood in this line that had not moved in an hour and a half.
Randy, what day was that?
That was Monday. I flew out Monday and that was Monday, and I was stranded in Seattle sometime in the afternoon, and the connecting flight should have went out. So that could be. It's not. I had a vision of you sleeping on the Yeah, we had different offers from different people. We had somebody that lived in Seattle, and we might be staying at their house, and we could do this or we could do that. So thank you for everyone that reached out and made me not feel like I was there by myself. That was an answer to prayer. But I also understand that as soon as you learned that our flight was canceled, the other group that was staying with us at Eagle Crest, Pastor John, Patty, Eagle Crest, the other group, the congregation back home, there were lots of prayers going up because as I was standing in line, I heard a gate agent 400 yards away say, this flight to Detroit is going to be leaving. If you're on this flight, please make sure that you're at the gate. I said, man, I'd like to be in Detroit. It's not Chicago, but I can live with Detroit. So I left my bag with my new friends because I made some 3 or 4 friends that we were all commiserating on our situation together. And I said, please watch my bag. I'm not leaving the line, but I got to see if this is going to work. So I went over to this gate, and there were 2 gate agents. And I approached the first one, and I said, we are stranded here in Seattle. We'd like to get home. We live in St. Joseph, Michigan, which is between Chicago and Detroit. And he probably thought I was telling him way too much information. We don't care where you live. But it made sense because he said, no, I get it. If we get you to Detroit, he says, can someone pick you up in Detroit? I said, yes, we already have arrangements for that. He said, okay, let's see if there's any empty seats on this flight. How many are you traveling with? I said, 5. He said, we've got 6 empty seats. He says, let me see if we can get you in. So he starts typing our names into the computer. When the second gate agent, I think it was the third gate agent came up and she said, we are closing this gate. This plane is leaving. If you're not on this flight, you're out of luck. I said, well, we're trying to get on that plane. And she said, well, where are you trying to go? And she looked at our ticket and she said, you're going to Chicago. You don't even know where you're going. This flight's going to Detroit. She wanted to stop us from getting on the plane. I said, no, please let us get on this plane. So as he was entering our names into the database, she said, well, hold on, I got to read these names off. And so she grabbed the microphone and she said, Borson, Sikora, Nicholson. And she was looking around, and the 5 of us are standing right there. We're like, we are the 5 that you're looking for. We're the ones that are trying to get on that. She goes, oh, well, why didn't you say that? I said, no, we have been trying to say that. So the first guy that I was talking to, he said, I think the universe is aligning for you. And I said, no, we believe in prayer. I said, I think it's an answer to prayer. And he says, I believe in prayer too. So it's probably something that he doesn't say every day, but because we offered that, that's our alignment with how we believe things are working out. And the fact that this flight was leaving as we were standing in this line that was not moving, and the last person that I talked to that was not Delta, because we could not get through to Delta, they wanted us to go to Phoenix and leave Wednesday from Phoenix. So we would have been in Phoenix and spending 2 days by the pool without any clothes because we didn't have our luggage. Our luggage was going to O'Hare. So, our luggage still went to O'Hare. And we got on the flight. We got to Detroit. We saw the church band for the first time. Monastics were there. Thank you. And I thought, man, I'm just going to get in this van and sleep. And for the next hour and a half, I could do nothing but talk about this trip. I didn't sleep at all on the way back. These guys did. But yeah, it was definitely some answers to prayer. I think when our flight was canceled, and I thought, man, it sure would be nice to be back at Eagle Crest where you guys were. But I think the Lord provided and got us home. So, thank you. These slides have been cycling through. Some people call them slides. The photos. You probably have some questions like, what are they doing? And what's that little circle in the middle of that mountain? And why is Jared standing on this porch? Does anybody have any questions that we can answer for you?
They are ready to answer questions. So I heard that you were with another group. Was there any sharing of work assignments with that other group, or were you on very separate sections of the camp and work assignments?
Who wants to?
Who wants to answer that?
Hold.
The other group. So we had our own work sites, and then sometimes they would go to the next work site. The next day, sometimes they'll go to like a different person's house that we've already been to. But we'd split up into 3 different groups with Pastor John, Randy, and Patty, and then they split up differently and went to other houses.
Okay. The reason I was asking, some of you already know, that group was from East Saginaw Church where I grew up. And it was my nephew that was the youth leader of that group.
That's cool.
Yeah, we only saw them at camp, and that was it. And hikes, but.
Anyone else?
I want to know what kind of ceremony happened when you left the line that hadn't moved for an hour and a half. Like, are they lifelong friends now?
Well,
Were you vacation together?
we exchanged emails and we were really close. But yeah, when I left the line, I left my bag with them. And I had the conversation at the gate, and I realized that we were going to get on the flight. And I texted the kids, I think Caleb, I said, get back to this gate, we may be getting on a plane. And so they're running down the concourse with Qdoba. And I think Chloe said, where's your bag? And I said, oh,
Yeah.
I got to run back and get my bag, which I left in line, which was my placeholder. And I don't think those people in line saw a happier guy in the entire airport, because I said, we got a flight, and I grabbed my bag. I ran back too. But yeah, there were several people. I mean, I got to learn some of their situations as well, and that line was a desperate line. There were people, and I got to know 5 of them. There must have been 450 people in that line.
Could you tell us about some of the people you worked with?
Should I stand?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of us worked with like a few different homeowners, and one of them, they were all like really unique and had something special about them and their property and stuff like that. We all worked about with at least like 3 or 4 homeowners. One of the people that stuck out to me was Linda. She had a pretty big property, and she gave us a tour, and she was like a sweet old lady, and she had us paint her house, like most of it. And we were working for a while, and she just kept telling us how amazing it looked, even though it was really splotchy and needed a second coat, but she thought it looked amazing and kept complimenting us, and she told us a lot of cool stories about herself, and it was really hard not to always listen to her. And some of us worked with John and Janie, and they were super nice. They gave us lunch, and it was like a good lunch that I really needed after so many days eating the sandwich, the cold sandwich. It was, I always remember, cranberry chicken, rice, corn, and then they gave us ice cream, and then they gave us gifts, and it was like a homemade love sock, which is a sack of rice, but like that you can like heat up and stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know when I'm gonna use this. And then the next day, I had a little incident, and then I got a mosquito bite on my eyelid, and I was like, it swelled, and I couldn't open my eye. And I was like, I have a love sack. And so I heated it up in the microwave, and I put it on my eye, and it was all better, and I could open it. So I'll always remember that gift.
The first person I worked with was Sharon, and she had like 6 puppies and 4 more dogs, I think. So she had about 10 dogs, and we did wood splitting for her. and I think everyone that was on that site was doing wood splitting for the first time. There's a picture of me in there looking mildly terrified of the wood splitter. But she was really grateful for everything. It was a big help to her because of all the the logs that she had, and she couldn't always do it by herself and get all that wood ready for winter. We were throwing the logs off the pile. We made a pretty good dent. She was really grateful for all of it.
Okay, so a couple of us worked with this guy named Jim. He was an older gentleman.
Was that his name on the
No, that's the leader of the camp. They're both named Jim. But, so we were putting an overhead kind of porch covering made out of wood for him, and he had this thing like all engineered out. He had the way he wanted it to get done, and it had to get done that way. But Randy, being an architect, had other ways to do it that he did not like as much, and there were some pretty harsh arguments, I would say, with Jim. But Jim prevailed and won, and I would say the porch covering turned out very good. So.
There it is, oh.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, we're still asking questions.
I heard that you learned a dance. Eagle Crest posted it. Do you still remember it?
No.
Yes, you do.
Jared and Aiden were practicing it. We caught them behind the bathrooms.
Oh, the context behind it is that Elise and I were just in the bathroom, casually, and I just started doing a whip and nay for some reason, I don't know, in the mirror, and then she just added to it, and then all of a sudden we started building a random dance, built the most random dance moves, and it was supposed to be kind of weird and awkward, and then we just finished it and spent so much time on it, and then we just walked out and forgot about it, kind of. And then later that day, we started doing it, and we taught it to Ariel. And then for some reason, we taught it to Jared and to Aiden, and then we called over 2 other staff members. Kenny and Jacob.
She wants to see it live.
I remember the picture.
So, when and if you had downtime, what was your favorite thing to do? Or did you just crash?
So we ended up having a bit of downtime each day, and for the beginning we played a lot of moose ball and Uno and cards, and in the end we also did a lot of walks at night, and then we played a lot of Mafia, and Ariel was our narrator. And so.
Okay, what's Mafia?
Like,
It's a whodunit game where there are no clues.
Yeah, it's actually one of the universities back in the 70s, I'll say Cornell because that sounds right. A student in the psychology department came up with this game, and they said that an uninformed general public will always lose to an informed small minority, and that's what the game reinforces. And so there are designated roles that the narrator will.
So there are 3 roles that you always have, and it's the mafia, the doctor, and the sheriff, but I'd like to add my own people. So we had the milkman, delivered milk. We had the pie man, delivered pie. We also had a wood splitter. We had a toilet clogger and a plumber. Who unclogged the toilets. Which is also known as Sally, because of something me and Lucy did at Blue Lake. There's this lady named Sally, and she would unclog all the toilets. So it was the plumber / Sally, and I think that was all of our, right? Yeah.
That probably made no sense because it really doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It's funny.
There was, like we mentioned earlier, 2 groups in camp, East Saugatuck, which they had maybe 18 people in their group, 15, and then our group, which we had 11, 14. Numbers are important. And so when they were off playing volleyball, and we were 150 feet away playing moose ball, we realized that their energy level was way over the top, and ours was kind of lackluster, lacking. And we said, well, we got to make our group a little bit more interesting. So we started coming up with really crazy rules.
okay, so basically, we decided that we needed to match their energy level, and we were playing moose ball, and so we came up with some things to shout. So there was one square where if that person got out, you'd scream Oklahoma. I don't know, Randy came up with that one. What were the other ones? If Jared got out, it was code blue. When Lydia got mad, then we screamed Play-Doh because she used her Play-Doh as anger management. Oh yeah, it was raining earlier that morning, so there were lots of puddles, and the ball kept getting in the puddles, and it was all dirty. So then we decided that we were gonna yell "dirty dog" when it got. No, wait. Somebody from the other group yelled that, and so we stole it, and we decided that was ours now.
So we heard Randy's adventure getting back home. How about John and Patty?
I'll start. Okay. So just to correct the record a little bit here. Not all of us went right back to bed when we turned around and found out that our flight was canceled. So I was on the phone with a very nice lady from Delta Airlines for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And she was actually helpful. The only thing was, to get us home, we sort of needed to break up our big group. So I said, you can split it in as many as 3 pieces, because we have 3 leaders, but we need to have 1 leader with each group, et cetera, et cetera. So she started working on that, and she put the groups together. and said, well, okay, which one do you want to go first? And I said, well, Randy needs to get back to his job quicker than anybody else does, so why don't you do Randy? So that's how he ended up leaving first, even though it didn't work out so great for him. But so anyway, we were scheduled to leave Monday night and take the red eye to Salt Lake City. Both groups on the same plane, and then in Salt Lake City, they were going to split us up, and one group was going to go to Detroit, and the other group was going to go to Chicago. That's the plan. But long before we left, even when we knew that Randy's flight had been canceled, we knew that Patty's connecting flight had already been canceled. So if we got on the plane together that night, at that point at least, we knew that her group was going to be stranded in Salt Lake City, and we didn't want that to happen. So we started looking at alternatives, found a direct flight, because this whole connecting flight thing seemed pretty iffy. So we found direct flights on different airlines. Well, first, I just found the one on United for your group, and I was texting back and forth with Brent and just said, look, this is how much it's going to be. We don't know what the situation is. But there was like, you could cancel it within 24 hours, so I just booked it for their group. And then we found out that we could get a refund on the flight. So Patty was on the phone with the lady getting a refund, and when that went so smoothly, and it seemed as though they were giving refunds out willy-nilly because of this whole situation, I asked her to inquire as to whether you actually had to have a flight canceled to get a refund, or if you could get a refund for just any old reason. And she said, no, you can get a refund. So I said, fine, give us a refund. And then I looked for their flight again, but they didn't have any seats, so we had to take an Alaska Airlines flight. But they were kind of like side by side through the air. We left like 5 minutes before you did and arrived like 10 minutes before you did, or something like that. But you can tell the story of, well, of many things, but maybe about the luggage situation.
Yeah, so that was, once we figured out that Randy was on the flight from Detroit, or from Seattle to Detroit, we knew the luggage was still who knows where, so we thought, well, we'll worry about it when we can worry about it. But, we were able to track the luggage. I think Evie had a tag in her bag, but we also you can track it from the luggage tags that they give you at the airport. And, the luggage made it to Chicago, so, somehow they can get the luggage there, but they can't get the people there, So anyways, we were really just, wowed by God, and we shouldn't be, but again and again, we're wowed by God, how our two groups got on separate airlines, separate flights, leaving at the same time, landing at the same time, at the same airport where their luggage was. And so when Dave Bly picked us up in the van, they landed before we did, and so he had already inquired where to look for Delta luggage. And they had said, go to Terminal 5. So you guys landed, I think, at Terminal 2. And so then they got their bags and walked over to Terminal 1 where we were. And then Dave picked us up there, and we drove over to Terminal 5 and walked in, and we asked some lady where to go look, and she said, yeah, I think it's all the way down there at the end. We went all the way down to the end. There was a whole bunch of bags roped off. We asked at the office. Right, yeah, apparently no system, but that guy had a system. There was a guy sitting there guarding the bags, and, we had the luggage tag numbers, and, I spotted a couple of them on my own, but, we were looking for 6 bags, and he was able to pretty much, here's one, here's another one way over here, here's another one way over here, and we had them all within 10 minutes or less. Yeah, and out we went to the van, packed up the van, and took off. And, it again, we shouldn't be wowed by God like that. But again, it just seemed to happen over and over on this trip. So, are there other questions? Oh, we have a question.
Since you ended up being there, 2 more days in Alaska?
Well, we were actually there for, our groups were there for 4 days, because we were supposed to fly out Friday night, and we didn't fly out till Tuesday night.
So I heard something about you helped with Vacation Bible School?
Yeah, they run a day camp. Some weeks they run a day camp, which is kind of like a VBS. And so, anyone else want to talk about that a little bit? Anyone?
So, the 2 days that, well, the 2 weekdays that we were there extra, we didn't have to like go out and work. We got to spend time with the kids at the day camp, and a bunch of kids just like came over on their bikes. It was pretty cool. And there was just like a bunch of activities and just games, and it was pretty fun. And we played like, there was like capture the flag, there's crafts. I made a ton of bracelets. We made portraits of ourselves out of cardboard. I never finished mine. What else? A ton of games that Jim had. What? Oh yeah, and there was like a Bible lesson for them, and then we sang songs, and it was pretty cool. And it was probably like a highlight, honestly, for me. It was just fun, you know. And then we got to like know them, and I made some Alaskan besties too. Yeah.
That was one of the things that was nice about this particular trip, because the work groups are established in the morning, and we go out and we do work at these individual people's homes. But this particular trip, the being able to be there when the Bible camp was being run, which doesn't normally happen, because they have groups come specifically to help them do these Bible camps. And we don't ever sign up for that. We sign up for the work weeks. But to be there while they were doing the Bible camp, it was very interesting to see just how many kids were there and the different families in the community that they are having an active ministry with. And that was also reinforced on Friday night, because they do a community cookout on Friday night. And you know, they've done that for a number of years, and each time it's a fairly good crowd. But this year it was a huge crowd. And just to see the ongoing growth of their ministry there in that community, which frankly you don't really get a chance to see a lot of, because you're just going out to individual people's homes and just trusting that somehow this helps them, right? But to see that was all very encouraging, and it was very, very helpful, at least for me too.
So I have a question. Whoa. I remember a mission trip many years ago. There were 3 Johns on the trip, and they came home with nicknames, something like Big John, Buff John, and PJ, which stuck.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Wasn't that year you came home and you were PJ ever since? So you guys had a lot of time together. What kind of nicknames did you come up with for each other?
Can I do this one? We actually had a lot of nicknames. At least we'll say one. Pastor John was Pastor Juan Chelas, which is John Beers, like the road. I ended up giving most everyone a nickname. For Patty, Chicken Patty. I also proposed Quarter Pounder with cheese, McChicken. She didn't like that as much, though. Then we have Randall. We call him Mike Wazowski or Randall because in Monsters, Inc., there's a monster named Randall. Then we have Jacuzzi because her initials reminded me of jacuzzi. Then we have Thigh because Lucy is very muscular, and musclo in Spanish means thigh. Then we have Grandpa because Lisa's initials are EH, and Grandpa's say. I actually don't have a nickname yet. I haven't given myself one. Lucy is Jaundice because her initials are Liv, and she said liver, and I thought of jaundice. I was just thinking about this one for Evie. I didn't actually have one for her. I'm gonna call her Muffler because Elise and Lucy did a lot of whistling on this trip, and she was not having it at all. So she's Muffler. Then we have Amtrak, once again with the initials. Then we have Ginger because I'm convinced Jared was a ginger at some point. Then we have Scar because Caleb doesn't say I love you and give hugs to Chicken Patty. and I count that as betrayal. Oh no, what was your second one? Oh, rooster. Because Lydia pronounces things like really weird, and she says roof, and she says like roots, pillow, milk, yeah. So it's like roof. I call it rooster, you know. And then Chloe's refrigerator because it came to me in the shower. That's all.
Lydia is also LK, which is a water fountain, so.
This is CJ, because his initials are CJ. This is CJ 2.0. Her initials are also CJ. And that's Gerard. Because what?
It's actually Gerald.
We have a question. Yeah. Ask your question.
Our initials?
What's your question? Shiloh's going to bring you the mic. You did really well. Say it nice and loud again. You did it. No? You said it really nicely. Ask Lydia. Okay, never mind. She already asked you once. Nobody answered. What was the weather like?
So the first couple days it was raining. It was pretty warm still, but we all wore like long pants and sweatshirts. Except for Lydia. Lydia refused to wear pants. The last 3 days, and then especially the days where we weren't supposed to be there, but we were, those days were really nice. It was like mid-70s, and we wore like just a t-shirt and shorts. Those days were really nice. Lydia kept checking the UV. She wanted to get a tan, but it didn't work out.
There was one work day where it was raining the whole day that we worked, and so everyone got wet, and some people got dry, and they're like, it rained? And then the person's house that we were working at, he was gone, so we waited like 10 minutes for him to come back, and we just went and shopped for something that our driver needed, and then we just went back to camp and took warm showers.
All the rest of us worked.
Yeah, everyone else was working because their homeowners were there still, but our homeowner went shopping and we had finished all the jobs that he had told us to do.
Go ahead.
One of them was scraping spray foam off with a kitchen knife.
Understand we were working around his house, which had,
That's right there.
yeah, here we go, the greenhouse there. And we're working around the perimeter of his house while it's raining, and the water coming off the roof was falling right down our backs because we were working under and around the perimeter of his house. We worked for quite a few hours the first day, went back the second day, continued to rain. Both of those work groups came back to camp. They couldn't have been more wet if we would have thrown them in the pool. They were just soaked all the way through. So on the second or the third day when we left early, it was justified.
Yeah. All of us were soaking wet, and it was, what? Yeah, except Caleb. Caleb was somehow dry during all of it. That's what, Lucy and I had that too. I don't know. Ours, it repels for so much time, and then it has to get soaked somehow. It eventually gets all watered. Except Caleb's jacket.
Any other questions that we can answer for you?
What was your brief on using the chainsaw and log splitter?
Ah.
The log splitter and chainsaw.
It was great fun.
The end.
Though the chain kept on coming off, like, every single time I used it. So we just had to keep, like, restarting. And the wood splitter, like, I was using it, and then the homeowner came over, and, like, he turned it, he's like, now you can go faster. Go, go, go. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah. We won't go into a history of why the log splitter question comes up, but I think Lydia came up to me after day 2 and said, you know, I've been on 2 work groups and I haven't used a wood splitter yet. She said, by the way, I've got this bucket list. And she had a bucket list of things she wanted to do, and use a wood splitter was one of the things on the list. We also passed the hospital, and I pointed out to Lydia, I said, look, there's the hospital. And so she took a photo of it and texted it to her parents.
No, Nadia.
Yeah, she sent it to Nadia.
And I was like, good memories?
One of the things about this trip, speaking of the log splitter and the chainsaw and stuff, is with the kids having an opportunity to do things that they might not otherwise be able to do. So, there is an element of risk involved in these things, but we try to mitigate that risk as much as possible and stay, very close to the situation. But I do, these are just pictures, but I do happen to have quite a few videos of your children with a chainsaw in their hand. So if you're interested in taking a look at their form and how easily they're able to get through the logs, I've got the evidence for you. So. What's that? Right, exactly right, yeah.
No, I just wanted an explanation for the yellow thing that keeps coming up. It's what?
You hear his mom, you can't tell that.
So there was this girl at day camp. She was the first girl there. She actually was staying at the camp with her family. She was a very outgoing girl. She was very brave, and she came right up to us and started talking to us. And she, I guess, got a liking for me. We were playing moose ball, and she would try to get me out a lot, and it was just fun rivalry. But we were asked to make self-portraits, and she wanted to make one of me. So that is my self-portrait, that yellow thing.
All right, so as you can tell, I mean, as many stories as we've heard tonight, there are a lot more stories. There it is. Gerard or Jim?
I see it now.
There's a picture of him right next to it if you want that.
Oh, yeah. But there's many other stories, so please feel free to keep asking about various aspects of the trip, and more things I'm sure will come to mind. So. But again, thank you very much for all of your support. It was, as has already been mentioned, the support that we got, even in the midst of, well, particularly in the midst of the challenges of getting home, were wonderful. I know when we sent back a word of what our new flight plans were, people were lined up almost immediately to go and pick us up wherever we were going to end up being. So thank you very much for that. It really was another aspect of that situation that we just kind of shook our heads and said, wow, Lord, thank you for your people and how willing they are to. And then one little aspect of that, so, there's lots of people trying to coordinate this stuff, and Brent had been doing a lot of the coordination, and then I got a text from him and said, okay, hopefully everything's in place, I'm going to bed. And so then he gets up early in the morning. Then something changed after that point. I think maybe our flights were finally locked in or something like that. And so I tried to contact Monastics because I knew that they were one of the people in line, and I didn't get an answer. So I thought, well, I'm not going to pester them. I'll call Dave Bly because I know he's another one of those individuals. So he said, sure, I'll pick you up. We're going to be arriving in Chicago at whatever time. No, I'm sorry. This is when we found out that Randy's group was going to Detroit. And we had to quickly arrange for them to get picked up. And that was that succession of things. Anyway, I then found out, because somebody texted somebody who talked to me, that actually Bob and Sheila were on their way to Detroit to pick them up. So then I called Dave back and said, hey, whoa, you might want to, but I said, well, one thing's for sure, you can't both take the church van at the same time. So if you get to church and there's no church van there, then you know that they've already left. Anyway, he, I think, called you and was able to get in touch with you. And then he told me that, or no, you texted me. It's all coming back to me now. That you were sorry you didn't get our phone call, but you had decided to stop at home to get pillows and blankets for the weary travelers. And that was another piece of it that was just, it demonstrated the love and concern, not just that they would go and pick them up, but that they wanted to make sure that they were going to have what they needed to be comfortable and to rest on the way home. So just one example of that kind of love. And so thank you very much for that. And we give praise to God for those things too. We're going to go now and have some ice cream. It's waiting for us downstairs, but let me close in prayer. Lord God, we thank you for this opportunity that we had to travel to Alaska and to see your glory there in so many ways. We thank you for putting us in a situation where we could see the glory of your care for us too. We take that for granted from day to day when things are essentially at our direction, and when we are in situations where it is out of our control and you show yourself to provide in such miraculous ways. You remind us, Lord, that it's really you who is caring for us from moment to moment. We thank you for that reminder. We thank you for all the relationships that were made and that were built on this trip. We thank you for the ongoing development of our faith on this trip. And we pray that you would continue to use these things, Lord, to mature and develop our faith and our relationships in the faith. We thank you for the ice cream that we can share together, and for the ongoing fellowship that we can have yet this evening as well. And we lift all these things to you in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.